welcome Jimmy Genenz, Chicago legend. You've been in all sorts of bands. I don't even know where to start, but I wrote them down in case I forgot any. But Flesh Trend, Avernus, Dead for Days, Rain Inferno, God Dementia, The Amazing Dysphoria, and most importantly, Jungle Rod.
I just joined another one too.
Oh, okay. Who's that?
It's not even a metal band. It's more like a post-rock band. It's just something different. They're called From Beyond These Walls. And it's
From Beyond These Walls.
From Beyond These Walls, and it's instrumental kind of post-rock stuff, but it's just something else to do. I mean, I like so much different music that I want to try different things. You know, I just want to play different things. You know.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you about that too. It's when we had Mike Hill from Tombs on. You know, it's we shared a lot of real estate with Godflesh and Neubauten. And,
sure.
The Swans. Yeah, I noticed that. I
love that button.
So maybe we can start there. How did you get into heavy music, and what were some of the bands that weren't necessarily, metal, that kind of, I guess, spun the wheel of aesthetic for you?
Definitely makes sense. My dad, he was a bass player.
Me too.
Yeah, he always had a bass laying around the house and stuff, so I was just pick it up and noodle with it and listen to what he was listening to. There goes my phone making noise. Listen to what he was listening to, trying to play what he was doing, But then when I got older and started learning about music and seeing the broad array of music that was out there, he didn't necessarily follow along with it. He was very stuck in his ways. So anything like past 1968, he hated. If it had any kind of distortion in it or anything, he hated it. You know what I mean? And so he didn't like anything I liked. So of course, being a kid, you're just going to try to rebel as much as possible. So I tried to find the weirdest, most obscure, craziest shit just to piss him off. You know what I mean? And in that time of doing that, you find out, wow, there's some really cool music out there. And I start to realize that it wasn't even more about music. It wasn't even about music. It was more about sound. I don't even care what the music is. If the sound is appealing to your ear, you're going to like it, and like with Neubauten is hard to listen to for a normal person. It's hard to listen to. You can't just pop it in and be like, ooh, this is awesome,
Oh, I like this.
It makes Swans sound like Disney,
Yeah, it makes, and even Swans aren't easy to listen to, some Swan songs, but I guess, and it was just, it started a realization. Like I saw, my first heavy metal show was Merciful Fate in '84. But I saw Neubauten in 88 in a warehouse, and it just was amazing. It was just incredible. Like it wasn't even a concert; it was a fucking ritual. You know what I mean? Like when these black metal bands say ritual, this was a ritual. It was.
How old were you during?
I was 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was 14 when I first saw Neubauten, but
that's an important age in being an impressionable on something that you want to rebel and certainly get into.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then, I guess that gets your travels down the dark side of music, and of course you start thinking about other things, real alternative music. You know what I mean? And that's where it started. But Merciful Fate was my first live concert. That changed my life with wanting to be in a metal band, and just do what I was seeing King Diamond do on stage, which was just, he had everybody in the palm of his fucking hand. And it was just I was scared to death. I was 12 when I saw that show, and I was scared to death,
Yeah, I used to keep my Merciful Fate and King Diamond tapes underneath my bed. I grew up in a Jehovah's Witness family.
Ooh.
And to me, that was the ultimate rebellion. King Diamond was...
That's what kids do,
Yeah.
And I did my research on you before this interview and saw some of the things that you favored were Merciful Fate and King Diamond.
Favorites.
And, all the bands that you had been in, and, not to be disruptive, but I also saw that you were, a part of quite a few important tours like that metalheads would be, quite impressed by. We've
done a couple good ones.
I heard and I saw, and is there anything from any of those tours that you had been on that you have, the extreme stories, anything interesting and fun that you would say that those tours had brought you?
I get that a lot, like crazy tour stories. I'm gonna be honest with you, like as far as jungle rock goes, we are the tamest fucking band on the road. The tamest band. We do not hang out. We don't party. We hang out with the fans afterwards, and we get on the road. You know what I mean? You got to get out of there. We drive ourselves. We don't have a bus. We don't have a driver. So we drive ourselves, and I think that's how we stay focused. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when I was younger, when I was at Flush Grand, we'd go to every place we played. We'd make sure we partied our asses off after the show.
Yeah.
We went somebody's house, everybody went there, and we partied. But of course, I'm not 25 anymore, so. And now it's about money. It wasn't about money back then, but as you get older and, the label, they want us to make money, so now it's about money. And
as it was then, as like a scenic thing, being in metal and being on the scene, it was, for some, I guess, on the scene bands and, people that were, I guess, famous, it was all about the bitches and the girls behind scenes and the partying and
partying. The partying was fun, but I don't know. That's like Poison video shit. That shit doesn't really go on.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Here and there. Dude, but it's not like a bunch of sluts backstage. And that's just, I've never really even seen that. If you see one chick back there, she's probably because some guy invited her from one of the bands. You know what I mean? And
well, that's what I'm saying is that, beyond being behind like Poison or, whatever mainstream band that's having like women backstage and being this and that, a real metal band wouldn't, you're not doing that. You're doing it for the music.
We always did it for the music and the fun and the party and the camaraderie. It's for the camaraderie, It's if there's females, that's fine. You will talk to the females, but it's not all about getting in their pants like so many bands seem to think. You know what I mean?
Scene. I mean, when you're in the underground and you're doing that thing,
that's not the scenario. The women,
not even kind of.
Or
those are old days. People don't think like that anymore. I mean, not for the most part. Now probably at a rap show it's like that. I don't know.
I don't know.
I would assume a Post Malone show has a ton of slutty chicks backstage. I mean, I'm sure, but
I think that's,
we're a lot more grown now. Like I'm 45 now, and it's like if I sit there and drink after the show, I'm gonna be hungover as shit the next day, and I have to play the show hungover, and I hate playing hungover. That's the worst.
And then you gotta deal with your kids, and you're like, oh god.
Oh man.
I can't do that.
Yeah, I'm not a kid anymore.
None of us are.
But I guess the best tour story was the Mayhem Fest we did in 2015 when we toured with Slayer and King Diamond. You know what I mean? That was a dream come true for me to just tour with the King and hang out on the side of stage every day and watch him play and talk to his band and get to know his crew and all his band guys. And I got to meet him a couple times, and it was, that was the best for me. That was the best part for me. I don't think I can top that.
Well, I think for a true metalhead, your dream and your wish is to go on like a incredible tour and be on tour with the people that you desire, the people that inspired you to be where you are in the first place. I don't think a true metalhead is like, oh, I'm gonna go on tour and fuck these bitches.
It depends on the guy.
You already love somebody. You already have a life. You already have a world. And generally, the dream of that is to go on to tour and meet people that have inspired you to get into metal in the first place.
Cheryl's laughing his ass off.
Well, let's go back a little bit.
Struggling there.
He's choking on that hit.
Cigarette.
It's a fake cigarette. It's just.
Is it a cigarette or is it something else?
I was trying to keep it a little more linear, time-wise. Like, Now, what were some of the things that your dad was listening to as a bass player?
What I learned when he was playing was like James Brown.
Absolutely interesting. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, I just kind of want to follow.
He played like rhythm and blues music. Like I grew up completely on like blues and rhythm and blues music. There was no country music in my house. There was no classical music in my house. It was all rhythm and blues, you know. And I grew up watching the Blues Brothers, was one of my favorite movies. So I learned how to play those songs first. You know what I mean? Like I learned how to play like Donald Duck Dunn's parts in the Blues Brothers, or Elvis songs. I learned Beatles songs. I learned, you know, and everything my dad could teach me when I was young, you know, just because I didn't know any better, you know, and I still love that music. I don't even play bass like that anymore, though, but I almost forgot how to play bass like that. But that was my dad, you know, and, you know, my mom would tell me, like, when Zeppelin came out, like Black Sabbath, my mom liked it all because she went with the times. When Metallica came out, my mom liked Metallica, but my dad fucking hated it, man. Anything, like, he didn't even like My Sharona or like Gloria, the song Gloria, because it had distorted guitar in it. Anything with distorted guitar he couldn't stand, and he just was so close-minded. And I mean, he was good to a point, but then when it got to that, I was just like, man, fuck you. You're just old, you know what I mean? And I'm old. I'm as old as he was when we were going through this, and I'm completely open-minded, you know. I mean, I don't get how somebody could be that close-minded, you know.
Well, I have to interrupt and say that everything that you have just said is so close in the scenario with Stephen and his father.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen's dad was a bass player. He was all into that whole scenario of blues and rhythm and bass, and that sense.
My dad was really into prog rock. Like
Yes,
King Crimson.
Yes.
Orchestra.
Yes was like his major.
You know, Larry Coryell and the 11th House. Pretty much anything like Bitches Brew, Miles Davis onward.
Sure.
So he was really proggy. So my rebellion was learning like Black Flag. You know?
Right. For sure.
And then you get older and you realize that, like, oh, my dad had me thinking in a weird time signature really early on, and it became natural. So I couldn't write it down.
Well, as he got in trouble as a youth,
it became more like Melvin-y, you know, kind of
right. Oh yeah,
kind of shit like that. But your first band was Dysphoria. So how did that?
That was the first one, the first real band I joined when I was 17, 1992. Those guys were a little bit older. Everybody was like 22, 23, and I was like 17. But that was my first band. I met the singer Nick at an Autopsy show, I think, of all things, and he said, "You need a bass player." And I went out to Gary, Indiana. I took the train out there. I went through the ghetto, stood there by myself with a bass guitar. All the motherfuckers were sitting there going, "Look at this crazy white motherfucker. He's got to be crazy, man. He's down here." It would be the only one down there, you know what I mean? I went through it all, you know, and Gary, Indiana is a rough fucking town, man.
Yeah, you've been there. Gary?
Gary's a rough town.
Yeah, right.
I've been to Gary. I was raised in Rockford, on all of the worst sides of Rockford, so I have, you know.
Yeah, it's similar.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah.
My girlfriend was born in Rockford.
What's that?
My girlfriend comes from Rockford, too.
Oh, where at?
Your girlfriend's from Rockford?
She's from Rockford, but yeah.
Where from Rockford?
I don't know. She's from Rockford. That's all I know. I don't know my way around Rockford, but I just...
Better you don't.
Yeah. I've been there a couple of times with her. It's okay.
It's all right.
It's like any city. It's got its good parts. It's got its shit parts, you know?
Well, with Dysphoria...
Not really, actually. There are no good parts. It's a really rough place.
Well, so Dysphoria were there, and they were a little older than you. So what were some of the bands? Were you guys listening to the same stuff, or were they?
Oh, with Dysphoria, at that time it was like we were really hot on like Malevolent Creation, Resurrected, anything that Alex Marquez was playing drums on, like Solstice at the time. He was he had such a cool, like, I think that's kind of what Dysphoria kind of based itself off, that 90s like Florida sound almost, you know. We were into like Brutality, Malevolent Creation, Obituary, the classic death metal, you know what I mean? That's what everybody listened to back then, and we still do. But I think with Dysphoria, we tried to model ourselves more along that Florida style, like Malevolent and Brutality, and not be like Suffocation was the New York sound, or, you know, that was more like us. It was more like that Floridian sound, even though we were from Indiana.
Yeah. What did you say was the Florida sound?
What's it?
Like Malevolent Creation.
Malevolent Creation.
Well, I think there was another band that I can't pinpoint right now.
Well, they were all from Florida. That was like the scene. That was Morbid Angel, Deicide, Malevolent Creation, Obituary.
There you have it. That's what I was.
We wanted to do some more like Malevolent, where it was more like thrashy death metal instead of just like brutal death metal. It was more like it had a thrash feel to it too, you know?
Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember all of that.
So what was next? Avernus? Because that was a little more doomy.
Yes. Avernus, I went to high school with all them guys. Actually, me and the original guitar player actually started the impetus for that band, and then we got to a fight, and he went off and did it with them guys without me. A couple of years later, I joined after he was gone. So, that was like 96 I joined that band. Right about the time Dysphoria broke up. Okay. They called me to really need a guitar player, so I went and joined Avernus, and
they were in Chicago, or were they?
Berwyn. Okay. Forest Park, you know.
They're still playing like Smiler Googans and Thirsty Whale.
Yeah. Okay. They were just getting into that time where they were changing their sound from the death doom or more to like the goth rock kind of deal.
Like
they did from like
Lost, My Dying Bride kind of.
Yeah, it was heavy at first, but then it got like in '97, it got to like the songs were more like clean vocals, no growling or anything like that, you know. And it was okay. It was, for me, it's music, and I don't care if it's growling or not, or if it's brutal death metal, if it's true, you know. I mean, I just want to play music, you know. So I did that for a while, and it was fun. We did that. I did that till like 2002, and then I quit, and then I went back, and then I quit, and then I went back, and then I quit.
What were you playing in Avernus?
I play guitar.
So yeah, you really quit. Yeah, and I've been that dude too, where, you know, I was the better bass player, option-wise, or the guitar player was better. And, you know, so I got stuck with the bass, I'd say like 50% of the time. Do you think you were a much better guitar player because you also played bass and vice versa, because you kind of knew where the pocket was? With
rhythm-wise, yeah. I'm not a good solo player, like guitar solos. Not at all. I just can't get my brain and my fingers to do the same thing. I know where the notes are. I just can't do it. I don't know what it is. I think it's bass playing.
Well, I've watched all your YouTube covers, you know. You did, God, what's that weird ass?
Oh, the YouTube ones. I did a couple Merciful Fates. I did Vedwin's End.
Yeah.
That's the one you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of remind me of like, well, I know Leviathan was really influenced by them, and I love that shit. Like, that is...
Vedwin's End was like a generic attachment to going into deep solos.
Well, hold on. I want to hear what he's saying about this band, though.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I mean, if you ever get a chance, they're probably the oddest black metal band there is, and they just got back together. And I'd like to think I take a little bit of credit for that, Yusuf. I actually moderate their Facebook page. I started it like 12 years ago because they weren't around. So I made a page, and eventually, one by one, the band members got in touch with me. Who is this? Who is this? I'm like, this is Jim. I'm a big fan. I just started a page, and I got to know them guys. And then talking to them, like, you guys need to reform. You need to reform. Well, guess what? They reformed. Woohoo! So now they're back. And they play, I mean, to me, they're the best black metal band because it's like jazz. It really is.
It's like if Voivod was playing black
Very much fucking, dude, you nailed it. I would always say they sound like, to me, like Voivod meets Mayhem meets Talking Heads. They're fucking weird. It's all over the fucking place, you know what I mean?
Like it.
It's really weird. The weird drum beats are weird. The guitar voicings are very weird. And everything comes together and makes sense, though, and that's what's so cool about it, you know?
Yeah, one of the guys. Well, after that, they started. It wasn't Ophthalmalia.
No. Dodamsgard.
Wait, which one?
Dodamsgard.
What wasn't somebody in Arcturus too?
Arcturus, yeah. They all split off into different bands. You know what I mean? There was the 3-piece. The drummer went on to playing Cadaver, but then he jumped out of a fucking 10-story window and broke his leg, so now he's playing guitar and singing again. The guitar player went on to join Dadomsgard. Yeah, those Norwegians, man, they're nuts.
That's cool if you got those guys to come back together, because they're actually getting spread now. Like, that shit was so obscure. Like,
it's so crazy. Nobody cared about it back then, and now all of a sudden everybody's all about it. It's like, okay, I was trading those demos with them back in '93. Where the hell were you people at? You know?
But wouldn't everybody kind of agree to the terms that, you know, the solos, the guitar solos, and, you know, all that wasn't really necessary for all that. It was just kind of the combination of what you guys were doing, and not, you know, these heavy,
I don't think solos
guitar
are
solos
necessary. I mean, if it has a melodic
that's
purpose.
what I'm saying, is that
some bands it's necessary, but I mean, most of the shit I write, it's not necessary. The Avernus stuff is one big extended solo when you want to think about it, because it's just all notey and melodies and harmonies all over the place. Jungle Rot, I don't play the guitar, so I'm not worried about it.
No, but that's a good point, Maggie. You know, when it comes to, I would say the band you started with and the band you're in now, when you play guitar, when you play bass, I mean, it's, because let's be real, man. I mean, there's a million kids that could play better than either one of us would ever playing. So it's really just kind of carrying the torch. It's, you know, and you guys have ridden the path with Jungle Rat, at least, of, you know, like Bolt Thrower, Obituary, like, you know, it's just riff heavy, but live, it's awesome.
That's where it's a live band for sure.
That's what people want to hear.
It's everybody working together, and not like one person or another in the band who's like, I'm going to do this hardcore guitar solo and be like, ooh, I'm a star for this 60 minutes, and then it goes to the drums and like, and then the drums are going to be, you know.
Well, you would never think when death metal like came out that like Bolt Thrower and Obituary and Early Death would be like the cheap trick of death metal. You know, now it's just so complicated, and you know, you're trying to find the melody, but it's more of like a wankathon, you know, like, and you know, unfortunately, the aesthetic value with that stuff is just so hard to find. I mean, you know, Suffocation was good at it.
Sure.
You know, I would say I really liked when things got weird with like Immolation and, you know, that kind of where it was like floaty over. So, you know, kind of, you know, added a totally different dimension to it.
Yeah,
kind of
Immo's good like that.
Yeah, like Incantation and stuff like that. But once you get to just total, like you're trying to, you know, like my dad's music, it's pretty much the shit I grew up on steroids. You know, they're just following each other like Gentle Giant all over the place.
For sure.
You know?
There's stardoms in that scenario. And you go kind of from, you know, one person going off on their own, you know, solo into another person going off in a solo, and it's, you know, pretty, it becomes noodly, where it's just kind of,
right.
You know,
I agree.
On their own status or on their own stage, rather than everybody just being extremely raw and extremely just, I guess raw is the only way you could say, where everybody's just doing their own thing and it's making its own sound, rather than everybody else having their own stage and their own solo sound, where it just, you know.
Well, it loses the, you know, with metal, you know, and I don't know what you think, Jimmy, but like there's always like and with, you know, Swans and, you know, all Joy Division, you know, all these bands, like there's this darkness and human, you know, element to all that stuff where, you know.
I think I like the human element. I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't like that. That's why I'm not into the tech stuff really too much, because there's no human element to it. A computer could do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, you know, there's bands that have developed over time, like Neurosis, you know, like I
love Neurosis.
Like I learned how to play bass off of Pain of Mind and Souls at Zero. And now it's like, I don't even think about the bass when I listen to them. Like there's no, like the bass is, it's all one sound now. It's not like, you know what I mean? So it's kind of developed into, you know, something a little more cinematic.
Right. The sum of the whole should be greater than its parts. I agree with you, and that's the difference between the death metal says that you got Billy Joe over here on the guitar wailing away trying to get seen over Jimmy Bob over here who's playing the other guitar trying to get seen, you know what I mean? And they're both raising their volumes, and you know what I mean? And I totally get what you're saying. Whereas if all those parts come together and the sum becomes greater than its parts, and that's what you really want. You don't want to be able to pick out. You shouldn't be able to pick out each instrument. It should all come together. If you think about it, you know what I mean. It should all meld together.
Is that kind of what you're doing with the post-rock thing?
Kinda. That's more about sounds. Again, once again, there's no vocals in it, so it's just sounds. You know, it's just music.
Are you playing guitar or bass?
I'm guitar and bass and keyboards. Whatever needs to be done.
Oh, so is it more of a recording project, or do you got some guys that you're working with?
It's a band that they were already around. They were established already. They just called me up and just wanted me to put some input on their new album coming out. So I'm like, sure. And since we're not playing shows, I mean, we're not thinking about shows. We're just thinking about finishing their record. So
putting something together. So I will have to admit that I didn't really have a really good understanding of raw metal until I looked further into Dark Throne. And, you know, I guess years and years ago, I was like, oh my God, that's just a mess. It's just a lot messy. But then when I looked into it, that they took away the perfect sounds and, you know, cleaning everything up and just leaving hard, heavy, raw, and just like steel to your ears.
Right.
You know, that made sense to me.
That's what that's for. That's that production. It's all about the production. I don't want all my metal perfectly clean either. I agree with you. I want it to sound like it's recorded in a cave sometimes. Depends on the band, though. Once again, it depends on the band, you know. I wouldn't want to hear Decrepit Birth recorded like it sounds like it's in a cave, because you need to hear all those clean notes. You know what I mean? Right. But, I mean, like Avernus, my doom metal band, I wanted to sound like it was recorded in a fucking cavern, and I wanted to reverberate off the walls. You know what I mean? I want it to sound... I want it to crush your soul, you know. I don't want you to sit there and think about do. I want you to be brought down.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I several years into this, but knowing the difference between this metal and that metal and doom and, you know, death and black and, you know, learning the difference of it over the years. You know,
yeah, but that's a good point, Jimmy. I mean, when it comes to, you know, okay, we grew up around Chicago. You got New York, you got LA, but when you really look at Middle America and just what's available, especially 10 years ago, 15 years ago, there wasn't much. I mean, that's where you get your Panteras and your, you know, different versions of Pantera.
I can stand to that.
Yeah, and have you found with the revolution of, you know, the internet and, you know, because, yeah, it takes away the tape trading, you know, sacrificial kind of, you know, like true cult kind of thing. That's impossible now because we're fucking old. You know, like we're old. And, you know, I can't identify with how somebody else is going to digest.
But it's a matter of exposure. It's a matter of exposure, where you're from, where you're at, who you know.
Well,
it's very difficult when you grow up in, let's say, small town Wisconsin. And the most of the metal that you might hear during that time would be Pantera or, you know, that basic stuff, and you accept that as, you know, as metal, because that's what you're exposed to. That's all you hear. You don't have, you know, these underground you know, radio stations or people from outside bigger cities to have been able to expose you to these things. You know, you take metal as it is, and as it is for a lot of people that, you know, we condemn and tease, and I was absolutely one of those people, is that, you know, we're Disturbed or Korn or Metallica or Pantera or, you know what I mean?
Well, we're talking about availability in Middle America.
You know,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, because back then we had the tape trade. If you didn't know about a band unless your buddy told you about it, that was it. There was no ads. There was no commercials. You know what I mean?
No.
But there were commercials for Pantera. There were ads for Pantera. But that's what they were trying to push. You know.
Right. You weren't in a city. If you weren't in Chicago or New York or these bigger cities, let's just say that you're in these smaller towns in the Midwest, metal as you knew it was what you had when it was given to you. So Disturbed and all of that bullshit was metal as you knew it.
Not me.
Right. Yeah, but you and I grew up.
Yeah, for sure.
I
grew up tape trading, you know what I mean? I was, as soon as I found Merciful Fate, I was like 11 when I found Merciful Fate. And it was
Dude, I recently found a zine from Brazil where I have a leather jacket and I'm standing there like an asshole, you know, but I'm sure 9 people read it, you know, like it's like that, I guess that gatekeeper thing that people talk about. Like, so, you know, I grew up with all this stuff and information and I was excitable about it, but, you know, I remember going to Mississippi where my cousins live. My dad, you know, that side of the family's from there. And I said, hey, I want to go to the best record store that you guys have out here. And they were really excited. And they drove me to fucking Walmart.
They didn't have it.
And they walked me to the tape section.
That's the scenario.
But that's like Meth Town, USA. And that's what it is. So what would you suggest, I guess, for, because being gatekeepers of that kind of aesthetic value, there's a lot of stubbornness that goes on with that keeps it, it gives it its credibility and aesthetic to a point, even though some people might look at somebody like you or me as just a dad, right, at this point.
It could be seen
but how does it
stuck up too?
Well, I would say, number one, there's no independent shows like that. You know, that's really the thing that drove the whole thing, is that we set up shows ourselves. Like, everybody was excited about setting up a show. Now it's, you know, just, you know, gaming. So it becomes kind of, and I want metal and, you know, all these things and all these people that I consider important artists to exist in the future. Like, what would you, like, how would you break that down as far as, like, how is it going to survive? Given that, you know, everyone's in front of a screen, and how is it going to be exciting, and how are we going to get people to do things that are more tactile? Like as far as like record collecting, like that, you know, that is
that stuff will never go away. But as far as like, if this COVID thing, if this shit don't stop, and it doesn't look like it's going to, if live music stops, bands aren't going to be able to do this anymore because they're just not going to make any money to survive. You know, that's going to be all for fun again, which is not the worst thing in the world either. But if you got no place to play, why would you play? You know, I mean, it sucks having the music and no audience. You know,
but there has been some like exciting things, you know, during the COVID thing, that people have had to regroup and kind of, you know, the Down show was, I thought was pretty cool.
Well, a lot of bands are doing that now.
And like, people are trying to get creative. And
I don't know about you, but I am not cool with live music on streams. I'm not cool with it, man. It's missing. It's not the same.
It is not the same.
No, but from a survival.
Let me speak.
You know,
from a point of survival, no, I'm not cool with it. I'm only cool with social person.
What he means about survival is that for the bands to survive, they need to make some money, so they're trying to stream. I get that. You know what I mean?
So I will support that to the bands that I really like.
I get that.
I'm all about live shows. I like the energy.
Yeah.
I've always been the chick that tries to get right up to the front.
That's true.
I want to see it. I want to watch it. If I can get backstage, I sure the fuck will. I'm not a whore, but I will go back and try to meet everybody, talk to the wives, talk to the women, meet everybody, get my shit signed. I've been doing that since I was probably 14 or 15 years old.
Sure.
That's all my thing.
Mhm.
I will always be front row. And if I can get past front row, I absolutely will try that. So for those bands that I support, I hate having to, you know, to do it on screen. You
I
know,
gotta say the live
I
streams
hate
are actually starting to grow on me.
Thank you,
I've
Jeremy.
kind of
Are they
enjoyed
growing
it.
on you?
Jeremy.
Jeremy.
I mean, the Mr. Bungle live stream was so freaking awesome.
For sure.
It was
I'll
so
watch
good.
them. I'll
And
watch them. Don't get me wrong, but it's not going to take the place of concerts. It
Well,
can't.
they,
you
but
know?
I mean, they did it right though. They had like all these guest appearances with like Henry Rollins and
Nice.
David Yao and
They had Yao
yeah, David Yao was on there dancing in a kilt. It was great.
Wow.
It was like
dancing.
they're doing he was dancing
Jesus.
in a kilt. To the
Jesus
Mr.
Litter's
Bungle
still
song.
around anymore? I don't even. They're from Chicago, aren't they? Jesus
Well,
Litter. I thought
David
they were
Yao
from
is. David Yao's in like acting now. He's doing movies and
Okay.
stuff.
Dude,
I think-
that was my favorite band to see live growing up, man.
Oh, yeah.
Was it? I seen them at
He was
Lounge Acts a
awesome.
couple of times in the city. They used to play a club here
Oh,
called
yeah.
Lounge Acts.
Yeah, I remember.
Remember Lounge Acts? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're only a couple years apart, Jimmy.
Okay.
But
Word
some
of the
bands, I mean, they're
I
doing the live
love.
streams really well, you know, and they're doing things that they couldn't do live, which
Sure.
makes it kind of cool because,
I-
you know, there's no way you're going to pay to go see Mr. Bungle and then you're going to have like Henry Rollins there. And they had, who else? Glenn Howerton from Sunny in
For sure.
Philadelphia was in there. They literally had a whole slew of like guests on their live stream. So
They,
I'm
they
actually
definitely
kinda-
prepared for that. They definitely prepared.
yeah, I know. Yeah, but I'm gonna kind of miss some of that. Like when we go back to live concerts, that's great.
I mean, It's still it doesn't mean it has to end. Like you can still do specials like streaming specials, but I'm just talking about the fury of a concert, feeling that fucking bass in your chest,
I'm right there
feeling
with you.
feeling it rumble on the floor, bumping into people,
Yes.
running into people, spilling drinks on
Yes.
motherfuckers. You know what I mean? Going
Yes.
outside to the alley to smoke a joint. You know, stuff like that.
Fuck
You
yes.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
There's
will
just
get caught
things
up
you can't-
in a fucking pit to get close and feel it and hear it and see it and watch
Yeah,
it.
but this is more supplemental. Like
Right, I totally get it. It's supplemental.
Of course, we all
It's
prefer.
seasonal.
But it's not. I don't want to call it the new normal. Everybody likes that term, new normal. No, it's not
I
the new
don't-
normal. This is
no.
a waiting. This is a waiting spot right here.
No, I
Yeah.
am not new
Right.
normaling shit.
Nothing. No.
It's like purgatory, kind of.
Purgatory. That's what I call it. Yep.
Fuck the new normal. I
No,
am
not-
not about the new normal. I am not saying that this is how we're going to do things from now on. But the bands that I really love and the bands that I really support and look forward to seeing in the future, I'm going to pay the $9 or whatever it is.
No
to
big
support
deal.
that.
Sure.
They're not making anything now. And without us paying these stupid $5 tickets for online shows, they're struggling. They're drowning.
I understand.
They're
No,
going under.
absolutely not one dime of income coming in right now.
Right.
Yeah, what I did like about some of the shows is, I call it the relapse theory, where, the very small handful of people that were collecting vinyl during the early 2000s or late 90s, they would throw in a shirt and some like it was a package. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
the experience became more like one, and some of the bands are doing this where there's a very limited press of a t-shirt that you can only get if you buy a ticket.
Sure.
So that I think is like that's creative. Like that's
Business wise, it's very smart. Business wise, it's very smart. I guarantee these bands are not happy with it still. Unless
sure.
they're all about money. If they're all about money, then they're completely happy about it. But
Well,
if they're truly artists and they're missing the stage, they're not happy about having to do this. At this point, they're just supplementing income.
Well, most metal musicians and metal bands, it's not their scenario to be rich and famous and have hookers and fuck bitches and backstage.
I would
Like,
say
they're
yeah.
not
Back to the
doing
hookers
that.
again.
Once you
Back to
become
the-
once you become like I don't know what the fucking hookers thing is.
Well, because
You're not paying for it.
But I will throw in a caveat, Jimmy. I remember like some of the shows I played, and I brought this up a couple times, but it was literally my band I was playing in, 3 other bands, and possibly their overweight girlfriends or boyfriends. that were, just kind of chilling on the, and I'm not fat shaming. It was just, but there was no sexual identity to, that stuff. It was like you loaded up your car, you went to a place with a piss-drenched basement, and you just did it, and you hoped a couple people listened to you. And I think that's where death metal and black metal came from, But once you hit your age, and you're a lifer, like Rick is a lifer. He actually texted me not too long ago here. He said, "Tell Jimmy I said hi." I was trying to get him to surprise you and pop up on the screen. Rob Connolly actually told me to reach out to you.
For sure. He told me you were going to reach out. He said he was mentioning that at first.
Yeah.
I love Rob. Rob's good people.
Dude, he's such a great dude. Yeah, totally.
He's a good dude.
We actually went on a kayak trip a few years ago. Do you know Corey?
Oh, for Corey.
He was the bass player for Shift originally, and then
I remember that name. They play at Yaletown Inn.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember In Case of
Corey,
Capture.
In Case of Capture.
All those band names I remember because they played Yodi.
Yeah. I was in Case of Capture with
you. Were?
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that name totally.
That's awesome.
There's some names like that you'll never forget too. Like In Case of Capture. That's a name you'll never forget.
Well, the logo was cool because it was
quite a.
It was teeth with a cyanide pill, like in between.
I remember that. That's many years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's hats off to you. That's impressive.
But
people know that,
like 6 to 7 people. I'd go down.
People know that. People know that.
But
I love that band. It was an incredible band.
Well, I think this is a good time to, and you obviously have a setup here, and I've been trying to do the same thing. Just get some monitors, get some kind of input. I know Jeremy and I are both using the Focusrite,
Yeah, that's what I got too.
Get some plugins, just do what you can to kind of have that time to, experiment. Have you been doing anything as far as pedals, like actual pedals, or are you doing everything through the computer? My only reason for asking is once we, can go back out there and play, like we're so used to having like this surreal, like you could buy 100 plugins, but we haven't, there's no live. So how am I going to duplicate that?
Right.
It's like you have all the everything you would need to record like Peter Gabriel's "So," and have all those, little ambiance and things. But are you looking at it in a way where you could take what you're doing now with this new band and be able to play live? And
we have jammed. And we have played the songs as a band. So it can be done. It's not impossible. It's just, as far as like learning like some of their older material, it's not important right now because we're just trying to get this record out because we're not playing any shows, you know what I mean? But everything that's been done can be played, you know what I mean? If anything, I'm getting a little ambitious with the Avernus stuff I'm writing on my computer because I'm putting symphonies and shit behind it. And I don't know how I'm going to pull that shit off live.
Yeah, no, that's the point. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, you could get carried away, right? Like
you can get carried away for sure. But one thing I'm hoping is that maybe I can get the band
90 guitar tracks and it's a 3-piece when you guys.
Maybe I can get the drummer to play to a click, and I can just bring the symphony samples with and play to a click. You could do that too. But I mean, I've been like I got this set up now. I'm going to start streaming on Twitch and playing and talking and doing video games and stuff like that too. So a bunch of my buddies, talking about the downtime, are on Twitch and they're all just streaming and they're making a couple bucks, you know what I mean? And I could use a couple bucks. So,
All right. How does that work? What's the breakdown on Twitch? Like,
on Twitch, well, first you have to get so many followers and then you can monetize your page and then people can subscribe. And people that subscribe they come to your page, they don't get any ads. Everybody else gets ads, so I get paid when those ads play. So that's nice.
Right. So it's like YouTube possibly used to be when it was
kind of. But it's all live. It's live stream now. Nothing's going to be recorded. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm saving any of it. It's all going to be live. You know, and a couple of my buddies are doing it. Mikey from Soulfly, he's the one that actually got me. He's like, dude, you got to get on Twitch. We're not doing anything. Get on Twitch. You know what I mean? And
Mikey Nunez?
Mike Leone, the bass player.
You're highly regarded in the Chicago metal scene. And yeah, of course you are. Everyone I talk to, it's like I'm the only person that hasn't had a deep conversation with you because everyone else I know knows you very well. You know, and
that's true. I've been hearing about you since 10 years ago.
Yeah, and
when I met you and you were talking about Jungle Rot, and that was
and I you know, when I first saw you, you had really long hair, and we both lost it in the interim. But you know,
but is your chest?
Looks good though.
Is your chest or your back?
It does.
Is your chest or back hairier than your head was once?
My chest, not my back.
My ears are hairier than my head.
My ears are hairy in my head. Yes, I am old.
Isn't it weird?
It is.
I got to get in there and shave them every day.
Yeah.
I used to be so like slim and like.
Same.
I don't know, and now all of a sudden there's like, you know, rolls and curves that I want to have.
I definitely put on some COVID weight too, boy. At the beginning of the year, me and my old lady started a diet. We started keto at the beginning of the year. We went till about March when quarantine hit. We were doing great. I felt great. I was losing weight. And then when the quarantine hit, it just brought us down. And we were just like, fuck it, let's go get some pizzas or something, you know?
Yeah, same.
Dude, Jimmy, I'm a smoker pack a day. I was fucking training for the, you know, like to be in a marathon. I ran 3 times a week. I was lifting. I was doing whatever. And
I was doing Pilates twice a day.
I walked to my deck the other day and I felt fucking winded.
I was doing Pilates twice a day and yoga at least once or twice a day, plus going to the gym like at least 3 times a week. And I had a nice little firm tummy and I was putting it down. My arms looked nice. My neck, everything, my boobies, everything looked great. I was on like that same trip for like 3 months. And my whole body had like reformed and I was like thin and little and young looking.
Yeah, we were looking good, and then all of a sudden we look like we're 57.
Oh my God.
My bags, you know, I'm probably drinking more. I'm sure I am. Absolutely.
Are you really? Because I'm drinking way less since the quarantine because I can't go out and I don't like to drink by myself.
Oh,
well, we have each other.
You got each other. Well, me and my old lady have gotten drunk together a couple times, played some games and stuff, but I personally, my dad was a bad alcoholic, and I don't want to sit around the house and drink. That's always a bad.
Good for you. I'm glad that you have done well on that because we have not.
No, we found it. We found a trick. You have a few beers, and then you take 4 Benadryl.
Oh.
Just knock out.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't consider myself an alcoholic. I consider myself a binge drinker. So I don't drink every day, but when I drink, look the fuck out. I'm all night. I'm looking for the drugs. I'm looking for everything. You know what I mean?
That's how we drink differently.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
He only drinks every few days, but when he decides to drink, he's drinking.
Yeah, I go all out vodka Red Bulls.
I will drink every day, but I'll only have a couple.
I'll show you this embarrassing thing that I do.
Ooh. Why Milwaukee's best?
You know what? It's just been my thing when I drink other beers. Like,
hey, dude, I get it. You got your drink. Everybody drinks what they drink. Some motherfuckers drink Hennessy. Some motherfuckers drink vodka.
I will buy a nice 6-pack. And Jeremy, I don't know, you might pop your head in every once in a while.
Yeah, are you in here?
But yeah, he's
just laughing.
Yeah, I
can't see him.
He's smoking a bowl, cracking up right now.
Yeah, he's in the background laughing.
Oh, you're lucky. I'm out of weed. My weed guy was supposed to come today, and he bailed on me.
No, I didn't smoke anything yet tonight. Afterwards, I will.
There you go.
It's the Rose's shirt and just laughing.
Last time we
you got a whole Neurosis rig.
I know. Yeah,
the hat, the shirt.
Was not intended today. I was
fanboy.
Well, I want to hear what Jimmy was just about to say.
I told George I do the Metalheads podcast thing. Do you know those guys?
Who's that?
Metalheads podcast.
I don't.
They just got a full page in the New Decibel. I don't know. You may want to go on there, but they're.
I will.
Dude, they are like doctors of metal. Like you'd be perfect.
It's a really good time.
But they go long, dude. Long.
I've
been on there. It's like 4 hours of.
Oh my goodness.
The 50 metal albums that came out this week. They're the most incredible people in the world.
But it's a really good time. It's a really good time.
I definitely don't doubt it.
Now, especially now during coronavirus, so you can't like go out and hang out with your friends. And
for sure.
You know, this is one of the few things that
This is the only thing we do socially, Jimmy, right now.
Right. Yeah, me too. Like Twitch. That's what I've been doing. Twitch.
Oh,
I think it's actually. I've had.
Well, the COVID's been pretty bad in the.
I've had some concerns, and I've been, skeptical of all of this, and I don't, want or need to get into the politics of everything.
Right.
But 2 weeks ago, my cousin actually died of COVID. And then 4 days before that cousin died, I had another cousin on my other side of the family who also had died. So within about 5-6 days, I had two cousins on different sides of the family who actually had died of
That's
COVID.
horrible, and I'm sorry about that.
It's a good thing.
Was it complications from COVID? Like, did they get pneumonia from it? Is that what it was? Or because apparently it's not the COVID that kills you, it's the complications that kill you.
Well, the thing is you already have the complications. You have lived with these complications.
It can give you pneumonia, and pneumonia will definitely kill you.
They didn't die of pneumonia.
Okay.
Each of them had underlying health issues.
Right.
That those health issues wouldn't have killed them.
Right, for sure. Not at all.
Had not have contracted COVID.
Yeah,
right.
That's the liberal hoax.
So I
don't believe it's a hoax, but I definitely think the media is inflating it and making it weirder than it is.
I'm just being an asshole.
I mean, you're not being an asshole. Everybody's got to, nobody knows what to think during this. Nobody knows what to think during this. This is all insanity. Yeah. Nobody knows what to believe. You hear one thing from the CDC, you hear another thing from Fauci, you hear another thing from this guy, another thing from this guy. You don't know what to believe.
We hear too that hospitals are saying people are dying from this or that because each hospital gets $3,500 or so much money per that dies of that. There's been those scenarios,
and that's why it's hard to be impassioned about.
It is very difficult.
Like people that are kind of dumb are taking like hard stances on this thing, and we're just kind of learning as we go. I mean,
we are, and it's very difficult. But considering that I've had two of my actually pretty close family members that were not on their deathbed and just had,
Ben Mazza's
basic illnesses,
friend's mom just
such
died.
As my one cousin, who I think he was generally healthy and he wasn't a junkie and he wasn't a drunk and he wasn't but he had diabetes. He would never have died of diabetes until he got COVID, and the COVID attacked his body to where he couldn't recover from that.
Right. Well, it preys on your weaknesses is what it does, and a lot of people die from diabetes. A lot of people die from diabetes. I've had multiple. My grandmother died from diabetes. Multiple people. Lots of people can die from diabetes. It's a very, very dangerous disease to have. It's not a either.
Yeah, my mom and my dad have diabetes.
Both my parents too.
He wasn't in a scenario at that time of his life where
right.
I get it. Diabetes, he was going to die.
Sure.
It was COVID that attacked his immune system.
Right. Exactly.
So, no, was it just COVID that killed him? No. But if COVID wouldn't have attacked his body, he wouldn't have died. He would have had another years to live.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because my oldest son, he's going to be 16 next month. And, he's a high honors kid. Like he's, he wants to be a lawyer and he studies like history is like his,
he's stupidly genius.
Like he's extremely enveloped in American history and he's almost excited that he got to live through something that he can tell his grandkids, which I thought was kind of interesting, you know. Because like my grandpa was in the Korean War, World War II, they're Marines, like there's all, the Depression, all this stuff. And this is kind of like his, he's really taken it in.
He's absolutely been sparked. He actually was sent the letters to choose his next classes for his junior year, which is kind of mind-blowing that that's happening. But, in this time, my whole life, I've hated politics. Hated politics.
Me too.
It was never something I listened to. I didn't watch the news. I didn't listen to any of this bullshit. I paid no mind to it. I had no interest, and I avoided it like the fucking plague. But within the last, I guess, a year, I've taken an interest because everything has just been such a fucking, like, everything has been so mind-blowing that how do you not take interest? How do you not listen? How do you not? Right. I haven't even voted since I was 18. I'm 38. I hated politics so much that I didn't even think voting or any of that has mattered.
Right.
And the year 2020 has just stricken something in me that is like, oh my God, it's something you can't avoid. You can't not get involved. You can't not listen. You can't not hear. You can't not have an opinion. It just
especially now because it's insane right now.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like,
it's insane. You have to pay attention because who knows what's going to be like in 10 years,
And I have a daughter.
Yeah, me too. And grandkids.
Oh, do you?
I do.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
How old's your daughter?
22.
Oh, nice.
I have a 9-year-old daughter.
How many grandkids? God,
3.
Fuck. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So that doesn't make you like need to be involved. Like
it makes me care. It makes me care, but I care about it always the way I always did. I don't trust big government to begin with, not at all. I mean, I don't trust the rich. I don't trust anybody that uses the fear of death as a psychedelic drug to make people do what they want. I don't trust anybody like that. Not the government, nobody like that.
But what I have to instill in my children is that you need to do what's right. You need to take into consideration that equal rights are important. Saving the planet is important. There are some things that it doesn't necessarily make you political to stand up and to say and to do things that, will help my children and their children and,
it's closing on the end of the year, right? So what are some of the albums that you've thought were worth listening to? Because it seems like a bombardment of albums because everyone's putting them out because nobody has anything to do. So it's
a lot of good underground death metal came out this year. I'll tell you that, man. A lot of good underground death metal. The same, all the Maggot Stomp stuff that was good this year. The Head Split stuff. All those cool underground labels that popped up and are doing good now. I'm happy. To me, it makes me feel like old school death metal. Where you actually had to write these people and talk to, and get the tape in the mail and you open the tape and you smell it. You can smell that tape smell and. You know what I mean? Remember that? You'd open up the lyrics and all of a sudden you'd get the smell, and it's like,
yeah.
You just don't get that anymore. But
they do.
There's definitely a lot of great albums out this year, though, man. God, there's so many. I think my list is going to be like 50 this year. It really is, man. Usually keep it at 20.
And maybe you could think of off the top of your head.
One album I really love was called by a band called Atramentus. And the album's called Stygian, and it's
do you have any idea how to spell that?
ATRAMENTUS.
TUS. Well,
yeah.
Good on you for doing that off the top.
I wrote it down for you.
Yeah. I can't even read.
I was an English major. I'm good at it.
Oh, were you?
I'm good at it.
Good night. Thank you for having us. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I hope to hang out with you again very soon.
Good to see you again, Steve. It's been a minute.
Jimmy.
Nice to meet you, Jeremy.
All right,
Hit me up, you guys. Hit me up, all right?
Good night.
Have a good one, guys.